Good morning. Thanks for joining me, Steve. I've got Steve Evans, who's my co-host for the Central London Property Meet. Steve is going to be presenting at the next meet. It's not far away now. It's less than 2 weeks away on September the 15th. Steve, what's the best way you'd like to be described in terms of being an investor, a landlord? How do you like to be?
I know some people. Hi, Brendan.
Hi.
Some people seem to make a distinction between whether you're a landlord or whether you're an investor. And I went to a presentation once by somebody who made a very adamant statement that you're either a landlord or you're an investor. But I tend to describe myself as both. I am a landlord. I manage my portfolio at the moment, although I'm training my PA up on some of the basic parts of managing tenants and so on and so forth. And that will evolve into a letting agency probably in the next sort of 3 months or so. But so I tend to describe myself as a landlord and property investor.
Sure. Where are you looking to set up your lettings business, Steve? In Crewe or in London?
Yeah, I focus on Crewe. Although I'm originally from Southeast London, I came to Crewe to get cash flow, and having achieved that, I focus on it very specifically. Luckily, it's just one of those things. Every investor gets a moment of luck in their career, I think, and for me and for those of us in this area, we've got a very strong indication that we're going to get HS2, having a station here, and there is sort of town redevelopment planned as well.
Steve, can you just explain to the listeners on what HS2 means for someone coming from London in terms of how long they'll be expecting to get to Crewe? Oh, Steve, are you still there?
Steve? I mean,
sorry, are you still there, Steve?
Sorry,
Steve?
Yeah, I'm still.
I almost lost signal there for a second with you.
Yeah.
But hopefully HS2 doesn't lose signals too often.
Yeah, so not. Well utilised, Brendan.
So,
yeah,
in terms of speed from London to Crewe with HS2, has anyone seen what the time will be?
I mean, but they're talking about an hour, which turns
1 hour.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, the best you can do is 1 hour 40, and that's it's quite a significant difference.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, they are talking about an hour's distance, which makes it, when you consider that the average, well, I don't know the exact average house price, but you can easily buy 3-bedroom houses in Crewe for under 100,000, which is what makes it good for investing. But also, it'll make it good for people who who get work. Certainly in North London area, it makes it very commutable.
I.e., from Euston, I take it direct trains to Crewe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so Euston's not too far from King's Cross, where huge developments have taken place and are still taking place as well. So we've covered why. I'm not sure we've actually covered why you've moved to Crewe. Have we, Steve?
Okay.
Particular?
Sure. Well, I'd sort of mentioned it briefly, but well, let's go through the sort of the whole thing really. I got into property investing like so many people because I needed to make up for not having a pension. I've been self-employed all my life since 1981, and put money into various pension funds that I've started and stopped over the years. That eventually, I got an IFA who put it all together and into a one pot. The pot increased in value and then plummeted, and so I thought I've got to do something else. I was living in Southeast London in Beckenham, Kent, for most of my life, or around that area for sure. And when I decided that property would be a good way to compensate for lack of pension, plus the fact that I enjoy it, I've always owned my own property since I was 23. I soon realised, thanks to the amazing people that I've learned from, that there are kind of two strands to property investing. One is capital growth, which all the Londoners would be very familiar with now, and the other is income. And you don't necessarily get them all together, certainly not in the same properties. So I wanted to focus on income, and so I was looking both where my wife Catherine and I lived in London, and also in Crewe, just simply because my brother had moved to Crewe for his work over 25 years ago. Doing the maths, it was very, very simply, if I came to Crewe, I could buy a property for, well, I mean, when I first started, about 80,000. I'm much better now, I can get them for 60. And rent them out for 550 a month quite easily, 500 to 550 a month. Very bog standard terrace houses, 2 and 3 beds. The 2 beds are the best. Which gave me sort of yields in excess of 7.5%, 8%, 9%, which has created the income. So that's the reason.
Sure. Steve, Crewe's definitely important to you, but that doesn't mean that you don't understand the London market as well.
No, and in fact, our former home is now a 6-bed HMO, which somebody does rent to rent with me, and he manages it from day to day. And I keep in touch with the London market. I'll probably get back into the London market at some time. Well, probably about now, really. I believe we're in an ideal opportunity.
What makes you say that about the opportunities? And what type of opportunities are you looking for specifically, Steve, as well?
Okay, I think there's a lot of confusion in the market at the moment. There is so much confusion in the market at the moment that generates opportunity for those of us who specialise and concentrate on what we do and keep focused. I'm very much more of the mind of a disruptive entrepreneur rather than following the herd. I've always believed that following the crowd is not necessarily the best idea. And I don't listen to the press. So there's opportunities are always generated because of that. There are very different mindsets around at the moment. And so I think there's good chance to get into the London market and look for potential uplift in properties. Now, I know a lot of people have been doing that now for some time, but there's an awful lot more left there to be done. Plus, there are going to be, because of what's it called, Article 24, the scrapping of tax relief on interest payments is coming on, and a lot of people are not aware of that. A lot of people don't know how that's going to work. They don't realise it's going to hit them. They won't know until they get their tax returns, or rather their bills, that it has affected them a great deal. So people who've got a job and then 2 or 3 or 4 maybe flats or houses that they're renting are going to find themselves suddenly catapulted into the highest levels of taxation, and they're going to find that they're paying the taxman way more than they're even earning from their property investments. So those people are going to need help, and they're going to need it quickly. So I'm certainly looking for small portfolios like that to buy and to rescue people from that.
When you say small, Steve, what's so someone might be listening to this, maybe not, but what would be a small portfolio?
Well, in terms of total value, probably 2 million and under. How many properties that transpires into? It might be 1 block of flats. It might be one property. But financially, that sort of level would be fairly easy to fund. And quick to fund too.
Did you say geographical area? You're open to an area?
Oh, I'm open to an area really. I'm, in terms of London and the southeast, I can look at it from a distance, but know it fairly well. So, I mean, south of the river, I know better than. Well, I don't really know north of the river at all, apart from Euston Road, which I know intimately.
Sure.
But certainly south of the river, Lewisham, sort of Catford, anything sort of London Bridge, and down that way, I know very, very well.
Okay, so you're looking for a £2 billion portfolio south of the river, ideally.
Yeah.
And extending out possibly to Kent. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, probably not down as far as the Medway towns, but yeah, could be persuaded.
Sure.
But closer to town, really. Very easily commutable, that sort of thing.
Steve, we hear all about these successes, which is absolutely fantastic. But one question which I love Mike Stenhouse when he asked a question. What Mike's presented for me at my Central London evening property meet. I just listened to a podcast interview with Mike this morning with Alan Frost. Mike always asks the question, what deal didn't go well?
Yes, he's asked me that question.
Oh, has it? Yeah. Okay.
On one of his podcasts some time ago. What deal didn't go well? Well, I mean, so far, everything that we've got involved with has worked pretty well. I mean, some not quite as well as others. And I'm such a positive thinker. I tend to think about the really good ones and not so much the poorer. But I mean, we've got one property that is a slight problem property at the moment. It needs some attention to one of the walls and the exterior that's got rendering on that's all cracked. I really hate rendering. I do not want to deal with rendering again unless I can just knock the whole lot off and recover before completing on the purchase, maybe. And I'm doing at the moment, I'm currently involved with a commercial to residential conversion, which has been a long and fairly slow process. But you know what? Everything is a learning. I don't believe in failure. There is no such thing as failure. You can always take learnings from things that go wrong. And in fact, in many ways, when things go wrong, that's when you learn the most. So it's one of those things that, there might be a few problems and a few bumps along the way, but fortunately for me, I say fortunate, but I spent a lot of time and money getting educated before starting. So I think that's been a big help. So I've not really got any real horrible disaster stories. I really feel for the people that have done things like new builds, off plans, abroad, all those sorts of things. And I would say to anyone listening, do not do any of those. Do not be tempted by them. At the moment, we're lucky because the pound's weaker, so everything looks expensive abroad. But I just wouldn't touch those. And I've got several friends who've really had their fingers burnt doing things like that.
Steve, looking on the flip side, so you've got huge amounts of experience, both London and to the north, which not all investors have. Lots of investors are one or the other.
Yeah.
Which you're sharing on the 15th of this coming month, 15th of September. It's a morning meet at the Grosvenor Casino. What do you think people are going to take away? What are the aha moments?
I'm all about mindset. I'm all about relationships and pick yourself up, dust yourself down. I think I've learnt to be like that due to not being able to see. When I used to tune pianos long before we had these fabulous iPhones and smartphones, and the technology is absolutely amazing for me. I can use things that talk to me. I can use sat-nav and so on and so forth. But when I started out tuning pianos, and I didn't know my way around Southeast London, my father used to lie on the living room floor with the A to Z spread out and bus maps and give me instructions on how I was going to get to a particular job the next day, or maybe 2 or 3, and I took out a little tape recorder. We used to call them pocket memos. And I took that out with a list of instructions, get the 54 bus to somewhere, I can't remember the names of places now, change at such and such a road, get the so-and-so bus to there, get off there, walk forwards, take the 3rd on the left, take the 4th on the right, take the 2nd on the left again, and take another left, and I'd follow these instructions, and sometimes it would go wrong. And bear in mind that being blind, I couldn't see road signs, so I might have gone wrong and not known it. And sometimes I might have gone wrong and not been able to find out for about 20 minutes. And then I'd ask somebody, am I in such and such a road? If something didn't work out with the instructions. No, you're not. You're in this road, and I have to go back. And I think learning that way taught me to be patient with myself, taught me to pick myself up, dust myself down. In all that time, I never failed to get to an appointment, ever. And I think that is a mindset thing. I think it's a confidence thing. And I think having subsequently learned about NLP and all sorts of other personal development systems and processes, I think what people get from me when I speak is that, frankly, you ain't got any excuse. If you want to do it, you really want to do it, you'll do it.
Steve, if people can't come along on the 15th of September, I know you're on Facebook. Is that your preferred method of way of people contacting you?
Yeah, Facebook is really, really good. I find it very accessible. I enjoy it. I'm currently doing this 22 press-ups in 22 days thing, and my guide dog John is interfering.
Well, he makes the video fantastic.
I know, I've got to start his own page now.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so Facebook is a very good way to make contact with me. There is my website. I'm not very good at keeping a website up to date and maintained well. That's something I need to learn.
You're definitely keeping your press ups up to date. So
yeah,
I'm not sure what day you're on. Day 14?
14 is today. Yes.
Okay.
I'll be doing it shortly. Sadly, it's not going to be outside today. It'll have to be in the house. Summer is gone.
I'm sure it's going to be as actionable as, I can't remember what day I saw, but one of the days was really an interesting day when your lovely dog took away the mat.
Yeah, well, he did that again last night, actually.
Okay, on day 13.
He won.
So I just want to say huge thanks for you taking time out this morning.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you on the 15th of September, which is a really action-packed. I don't know how I'm going to fit all in, to be fair, but it's going to be an action-packed morning.
I'll try and talk fast.
Yeah, because I also have Tusha there as well. So the Central London Plus Pirigesh is going to do a presentation. He's going to do it focused on building a portfolio, focus on funding that portfolio, portfolio acquisitions. So I've mentioned some of those names. There's also going to be a short presentation from another property tech company. So it'll be interesting to hear your views, on that company. It's called Get Renter. So I'm a huge fan of prop tech companies.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm open to more prop tech companies speaking. And I'm open to interesting stories as well. So if there's anyone who's listening to the YouTube channel thinking, look, I've got an interesting story, whether you want to share that through YouTube or audio or through a live meet. So I run both Central with the help of Steve and Luke Hamill. I run the Central London meets, and with the help of Nicholas Marshall, I run the Wandsworth meet. So host organizer for the last 6 years, but multiple events only in the last couple of years. So 4 years, Wandsworth on its own. So Steve, I really look forward to seeing you on the 15th, which is a Thursday. I'm sure it's going to be a nice, bright, sunny day in the capital.
Hope so. I'm looking forward to it too.
Thanks so much for joining me this morning, Steve.
Pleasure.
And thank you
Pleasure,
to the
Brendan.
listeners as well. Feel free to add a comment if you want to, for the listeners. If you can't make it along, you know how to get hold of Steve. Go on Facebook. It's Steve Evans. Is there a nice URL, or is it just type in Steve Evans into?
In fact, there's actually Steve Evans Home Chance, HOMECHANCE, will find me.
Okay, brilliant. Steve, want to say huge thanks and huge thanks to the listeners this morning.
Thanks,
you.
Brendan. It's been fun.
Thanks. Bye for the moment.
Bye.